Welcome to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Here's your host, Mary Gaida.
Welcome to another episode of In Your Business with 517 Business Magazine. Our guest today is Sinas of Sinas, Dramis Law Firm. Good to see you and talk to you again. It's been a while.
Yes, very good to see you, and thank you so much for having me.
Stephen, where is Sinas Dramis currently located? And then remind me what kind of law Sinas Dramis Law Firm practices.
Well, Sinas Dramis practices personal injury law, and we do various types of personal injury law. Our headquarters are right here in Lansing, Michigan. They always have been since we opened in 1951, so 74 years of serving the Lansing community. So we're Lansing grown, but now we're statewide known. We have an office in Grand Rapids that my brother and law partner runs. We also have an office in Kalamazoo and an office in Ann Arbor and Metro Detroit. So we look at ourselves as a statewide operation, and we're capable of serving personal injury cases across the state of Michigan.
Can we get into depth on what personal injury entails?
There is a lot of misconceptions out there about what personal injury law is all about. To us, it's a privilege to practice in this area of law because you're dealing with humans who have been through something that's horrible, one way or the other. They've been injured, or maybe it's a family who's lost somebody in a wrongful death case. So here we are practicing law, and we do it to make a living, but we're brought in to be the advocates for these people. And it's a duty. It's very rewarding because you can help people after something horrible has happened. You help them by securing financial resources through insurance benefits, through other claims they can make through the civil justice system, as we call it. So it's about moving. This is what I view it as, and my firm, I think, views it as. It's an area of law that's about helping people who've suffered some horrible wrong. And lawyers are there to help them move forward by securing things that will help them and their family in their life going forward.
I think about this often because I've been in some situations. I think nursing homes is one example. Dog bite injuries where my parents had suffered through some things, and we did discuss personal injury law and should we move forward on some things. And it's not always about the monetary, although that can play a big role when you're talking about, the extreme debt that comes with some trauma. But there's a level of just kind of wanting justice served.
That's right. And if you look at societies across the globe, if you look back through history, what you see is societies struggle to serve the needs of those who have been injured, those who have become disabled, those who no longer have people in their home to provide them financial resources because of a death. And so it's a constant struggle for a society to figure out the best way to serve those people. And in America, it's not easy being injured. It's not easy being children of family members who are no longer able to work or are no longer even alive. So this line of work it's about helping people through that really tough reality here in America where their health insurance resources can be very limited. They're on Medicaid or even Medicare. Private health insurance has limitations. People lose their job and then don't have health insurance. We look at it like our cases are a raft for people to grab onto in the sea of uncertainty as they are trying to make it as injured people, as people who've suffered a loss. So when it comes down to what we're doing, we're trying to help people through the toughest times in their life in a very challenging society when it comes to how we treat these people.
And I really see you as a voice for us when we can't speak for ourselves in these situations.
Well, frankly, that's what we get paid to do, right? That's our duty as a basic proposition. But, the word advocate is used at our firm because it's not just being a lawyer. It's about somebody who cares, somebody who looks at the human and says, you know what, that could be me. What if that was my family member? What if that was my best friend? And so it's not just transactional. It's not just like, okay, you're a client. Here's your case. We'll take your fee. It's thank you for trusting us. We're going to do this right and try to do whatever we can for you. And unfortunately, that can be limited, right? And there's a whole other side of this discussion. We talk about the limitations on what we can do for people, but we do whatever we can do. And we do that because it's we feel it's not just what we need to do as lawyers and for business. It's what we want to do. It's what's right.
Absolutely. And it's very important service. Sinus Dramis has been in business for over 74 years. Tell me a little more about the history of the firm.
I think it's really interesting. It's a bit, awkward to come on here and try to, tout our firm, toot our horn, but we are a small business success story. There's no doubt about that. In 1951, my grandfather, Thomas G. Sinas, and his best friend, Lee Dramis, decided to start a law firm right in downtown Lansing. And, they were just coming into law. My grandfather was a first generation Greek immigrant. Lee Dramis didn't have any lawyers in his family. Lee Dramis had actually just served our country in World War II, Silver Star medalist, wounded in battle. But anyhow, they both got through law school and they joined forces. And I've heard a lot of great stories about my grandfather and all the things he did to connect with people. He did various types of law. He did a lot of liquor license work here in Lansing. He did other types of commercial litigation. He did family law, and he did some personal injury law. But Lee Dramis was very exclusively oriented around personal injury law for the most part of his career. And so he had a name for himself in that area of law. He taught tort law, which is the academic area of law that underlies personal injury law. He taught tort law at Cooley Law School. And so the two of them pushed this firm forward. They attracted other really notable lawyers in the community. And then it became Sinus, Dramis, Brake, and Boughton and McIntyre. And it went on and was very successful throughout the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. And then in 1975, my father got out of law school and he decided he went to University of Michigan undergrad and then Wayne State Law School. And he decided to come back here and work at the firm. And that kind of started the second generation. That generation includes the likes of Tim Donovan, who's no longer at the firm, but Mike Larkin, Bernie Finn, Brian Waldman, Jim Graves. So they all pushed the firm forward until my generation came to the firm. But I will say, as kind of a further development of the timeline here, in 1975, when my father came out of law school, the Michigan No Fault Act had just been enacted, the Michigan Automobile No Fault Insurance Act. And so Lee Dramis said to my father, this is an area of law that everyone's going to need to know about. And so he made my father summarize all the appellate decisions that were coming out. And long story short here, with the help of Tim Donovan and other people at the firm became really known for being academics and really experts in the area of auto insurance law and no fault law. And so that just drove the firm forward in the personal injury law direction. And so the firm's had many different areas of law, but it kind of the inertia of where the firm was at about 30, 40 years ago took it into more of a personal injury area of practice. So there's a lot more I could say about the history of the firm. There's so many interesting stories, and I'll just go back to where I started. We've had so many twists and turns as a business, but we've weathered all the storms. We've had great leadership along the way, and now like I said to start out the interview, we're not just here in Lansing, we're across the state. And I believe, and knowing everything I know about this firm, that it's because we've done things the right way. To me, that's an inspiration. Being a part of this is like, let's continue this because, hey, how many businesses can last this long, and how many businesses can say they did it by really pretty much doing the right thing along the way?
That's a big deal. The right thing. That's a lot to uphold, and it's really important, obviously, for what you do. And the right thing is being an advocate for the injured, as we've talked about before. That word advocate. The firm does identify as being Michigan's advocates for the injured. Tell me more about what that means to you, and can you give me an example of a case that lends to that?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we look at it like you can be a lawyer and do your job for your client, but there's a difference between being a lawyer and being an advocate. And being an advocate is somebody who definitely does the lawyer's job, but then steps in the shoes of the client and looks at them in light of how they would want to be treated, how they would want another lawyer to treat their family member or friend. And it's looking at them and thinking, this person is entrusting me with providing them legal representation, and that means I need to give them that representation, but then also consider anything else I can do for them and all the ways in which I can try to be there for them and not just look at them as just another client that's part of, making money and being a business.
Tell me more about Sinus Dramis's experience with the no fault law and why that is so important for the firm to provide for people injured in vehicle cases.
Yeah, I started out by saying that we do personal injury law, and I'm going to go into answer your question, but to
Mm-hmm.
kind of give the listeners an understanding, personal injury law, there's a lot of different areas of personal injury law, and we handle cases in many of those areas. We consider ourselves, shall I say, experts or specialists in any type of case involving a vehicle injury. That's really one of our primary areas of practice because there's so many of those types of cases,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. There's also what we call premises liability when people are injured on property due to hazards and defects in the property. We handle those cases. There are dog bite cases, sexual assault cases we handle. There's boating accident cases. So it can be various types of cases. But I start there to not only give the listeners a further understanding about the types of personal injury law we do, but when it comes to why our experience in the Michigan no-fault law is so important, it is because the Michigan no-fault law applies to every single type of injury case that relates to the use of a motor vehicle. And so whether that motor vehicle is a semi-truck, whether it's a car, whether you're a motorcyclist who's hit by a car, a bicyclist who's hit by a car, a pedestrian who's hit by a car, all those cases somehow, some way turn upon the rights that are set forth in the Michigan no-fault law. And you can't have a lawyer handling that type of case who doesn't really fully understand all the nuances and complexities of the law. There's just too many of them that are important to the outcome for the injured person. So you can't be superficial with this law. You have to study it, you have to keep up on it. And we push each other here at the firm to make sure that we know what we're talking about and to stay up on the law. So our extensive experience with the Michigan no-fault law, really, I could go on and on about it, but let me just, in a nutshell, say my father and partner was known as one of the academic experts in the area of law. He helped develop the law. He wrote about it. Tim Donovan, his partner, did the same. I came along and really wanted to follow in their footsteps because, well, I like academics, but I also knew it was going to allow me to be a better lawyer. So I teach at Michigan State College of Law, the auto no fault insurance law course, along with my partner, Brian Waldman. My brother does all kinds of academic work within the law. So we're committed to the cause of understanding this law because we know how important it is to the people we represent.
Are there any notable case results that you'd like to share, that you've obtained for clients?
Lawyers like to talk about money. You see billboards, you see ads talking about how much money people get.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little bashful talking about it because we're not trying to, flaunt dollar signs. So I just want to state that when I'm going over a few of these results, the dollar sign represents the enormity of the loss that the humans suffered.
Right.
So there are so many great results my fellow colleagues have obtained on behalf of clients of the firm. I'm not going to list them all. I'm just going to start with some more notable results that have come about recently. My brother got an amazing $4.5 million jury verdict in a case involving the negligence of a store and how it resulted in a brain injury that ultimately, unfortunately, killed an old man.
Mm.
My partner and father, George Sinas, has obtained a number of results throughout his career, but a couple that come to mind, I'm going to talk about one that actually, and my partner, Mike Larkin, obtained, had to do with a pedestrian on MSU's campus who was hit by a truck and had her head run over and lived. So fortunately, she's still with us, but with enormous disabilities and confined to a wheelchair. And her ability to understand what's going on is still there, but she really can't do much for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So after 4 or 5 years of fighting in the courts because of certain legal complexities about her rights, they obtained an over $8 million verdict in the trial. And that's helped her live her life, despite her circumstances. So that's one case that comes to mind. Multiple cases in the seven figures that we've received for, catastrophically injured people. Many of those cases involved long legal fights that we thought, unnecessary or unfortunate, but we endured those fights for these clients. You know, the other part of this too is not just about money. I want to talk about a case that I'm really proud of the firm being part of, maybe it's top of the list, and it's known as the Andary case. This case has to do with, or had to do with, whether the limitations that were set forth in the 2019 amendments to the no-fault law, whether those limitations applied to people who were injured prior to the effective date of those amendments. So you had all these catastrophically injured people in the Michigan no-fault insurance system, and they had their rights under the old law. And in 2019, the amendments limited very significant rights with respect to access to care. And so the Andary case was all about whether or not people who had a no-fault insurance policy issued prior to the effective date of the reforms, whether they continued to have the same rights they essentially purchased under that old policy, or was the legislature's amendments, were those amendments applicable to their claims going forward. And ultimately, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled in our favor and said that these rights that people had vested at the time of their injury, and the insurance companies need to honor those rights. And there's so many more details I could cover about the Andary case and who the plaintiffs were, but I'm just trying to cover the legal significance of the case. And on that note, this ruling preserved the access to care for like over 18,000 catastrophically injured people across Michigan. And it was so significant in that sense. It was almost breathtaking to me the day that opinion came out, to think about how the legal work of our law firm really protected the rights that these people so much needed and were so desperately wanting to preserve. So credit goes to my father for his willingness to work on that case, even though he's later into his career. He can pick and choose what he wants, and he chose that. And then there were a number of lawyers who contributed to the cause. At times I was part of that. But then I also have this colleague, Lauren Kissel, who was an associate at the firm, and she did amazing work in the case. And so everybody was just all in. And that result, that result means more to me than, any of these multi-million-dollar results that, meant so much to those clients. But the magnitude of this result was something that we'll forever be so proud of.
Yeah, deeply impactful and quite a legacy as well. Tell me more about Sinas Dramis and how you serve the Lansing community in particular.
Yeah, so as I said, we've been here for 74 years. Our headquarters has always been here in Lansing. I live here in the community. So many of my colleagues and staff live here in this community. So we love Lansing. That's why we're still here. We try to serve the community, obviously, by being good lawyers to people injured in this area. But beyond that, the firm has always been committed to public education. We've given countless talks and held a number of different events where we're providing the public with free legal education. We also try to tie ourselves to causes in the community that are worthwhile for the community. We support various types of causes throughout the Lansing community, both with our time and effort and also financial support. And we also have a number of events that our firm holds throughout the year that are about serving the community. And the one that we're really proud of is called Lids for Kids. And that's an event where we give out free bike helmets to people in the community.
And you've done this for 10 years, right?
No, it's like over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yeah.
Incredible.
We're coming upon, I'm sorry, I should know the exact year, but we do it year in, year out. I need to get the update every year, but it's in that range. And we have given away thousands of bike helmets here in Lansing. And the reason why we do that is because we know from our cases that kids who have a helmet fare so much better in a bike accident than kids who don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had, real life examples of kids who've had the helmet on, and it's obvious that the helmet saved them from a horrible injury. We've also had cases where the kids didn't have the helmet on. And so giving away helmets is so, easy for us. It costs some money, but when it comes down to it, it's so much in the name of preventing serious injury, especially the kids. So we do this every year. We're doing it this year at the Marshall Street Fire Station. That's on Saturday, May 17th. It starts at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And each year it's a little bit different in terms of the attractions, but the idea is to not just give away bike helmets, but to make it a nice community event. There are some refreshments we have there. There are exhibitors there who have fun things for the attendees to do. We have some people come on stage, and maybe most importantly, we give away free bikes throughout the event. We have a raffle where people who come in and register to get a helmet, their name goes in a box, and then we raffle away a bunch of free bikes. So it's a great event, and ultimately, Lansing's our home. And so when it comes down to, our law firm and what we're trying to do here, we're just trying to, keep it going, keep serving the community, because it's our community and we really care about it.
And where can we get more information about the Lansing event?
Yeah, there's more information about the event this year at lidsforkidsmi.org. But the basic information is that it's on Saturday, May 17th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Marshall Street Fire Station. There are going to be multiple different vendors there. As I said, you can win a bike if you're there, and your name is raffled off. And we also have other sponsors that include the Brain Injury Association of Michigan, Origami Brain Injury Rehabilitation Center, and the Michigan Association for Justice. And we have some event partners as well, WLNS, ABC, Applied Innovation, and we certainly thank the Lansing Fire Department for letting us use their facilities for this event. So please come out and check it out and get a free helmet for your kid.
Stephen, thanks for spending some time with us today, telling us about the great work you do. And thank you so much for what you do for the community.
Thank you. It's been really great being with you.
Thanks for listening to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Get to know local businesses better by reading 517 Business Magazine. Get your subscription at 517mag.com/subscribe.